was built to last. With the webs I'm weaving, I could change the past. All I'm achieving, got my foot on the gas. Never stop competing. If you break my glass, then this life's gonna end.
I wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name. Check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change. Possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints. Money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague. We all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name. All our insecurities are on display. This is war with the enemy, think that it was meant to be. Living in a time where disease is on every screen. I won't let them fester me, I know most are festering. Negativity is a plague for the mentally weak. No mercy, all I got is working. Never stop searching, never quite so thirsty. I'm toxic and psychotic, with this logic you can't stop it. It's been chronic since I was a boy, so neurotic and chaotic.
Built to last. With the webs I'm weaving, I could change the past. With all I'm achieving, got my foot on gas. Never stop competing. If you break like glass, then this life's gonna eat 'em. Make mistakes real fast, then you learn how to beat 'em. If you take off the cast, you can see all the healing. If the pain's in the past, move on from the grave and put your foot on the gas. No, never stop competing, yeah.
I've been doing this, I'm on it. I just wanna be iconic. Sipping on a gin and tonic, got me going off when I'm on this topic, yeah. If I ever play, I want it. You know that I'm always honest. Stay away from those who are toxic. Keep them out your face, no way, you don't want them, yeah. Don't try to drain my energy. The enemy is everything. It's mentally, unhealthily, spreading like a rare disease. But I won't let it get to me. I don't need your therapy. I can leave a legacy of leading by intensity. Come on, we can fight this. Freedom is priceless, spread just like a virus. Living in a crisis. Do you feel courageous? Do you seek greatness? Trust me, you can take it. Go on and take your aim, yeah.
Built to last. With the webs I'm weaving, I could change the past. With all I'm achieving, got my foot on gas. Never stop competing. If you break like glass, then this life's gonna eat 'em. Make mistakes real fast, then you learn how to beat 'em. If you take off the gas, you can see all the healing. If the pain's in the past, move on from the grave and put your foot on the gas. No, never stop competing, yeah.
I work blind, got vision I don't need to see. I'm picking mind over matter, I believe in me. I need to find more hours in the day to breathe. Need to find more power in the way I be. And when my mind turns sour with the painful scenes, I need to scream out loud, I can't stop me. I wanna be the greatest like Rocky. You know I leave them all hating like a hobby. I'm out here making moves like a lobby. And if you ain't with me, it's your loss, see. I got my mind on the facts, I'm a python, grab what I like real fast. Stroke until I have everything I attack, everything that I lack, everything that I want, and I see, matter of fact.
Cause I'm my own worst enemy. Only if I let it be. I can control anything if I can just think carefully. I control my destiny.
welcome to my Mind Over Your Matter. My name is Rick, and let's get the show started. Yeah, I hope everyone is having a good day. What a close up! I don't know why the camera did that, but I guess it's a close up day. Um, Hope you guys having a good Thursday. I feel a little off because I went to physical therapy this morning, and my therapist she had me tap out. She really got me today, and she really worked me over. And man, my C7 is just really acting up really bad. So um, we're still working on it, and I'm still getting a lot of pains and aches and crazy sensations on my left arm. But other than that, I'm having a great day. I had an early dinner today and ready for an early show. I'm going to be on for about an hour, maybe in an hour 15, an hour 20 minutes. I don't want to be on too long because I got something to do around 8 o'clock. So um, let's just get right to it, right? Let's just jump right into it. Let's start with our favorite, the tropics. Let's go to the tropics and let's see Aaron and how Aaron is doing. As I can see right here, it has a little wobble. It's trying to get its act together, and it's consolidating a lot of moisture around this system. At any moment, it's going to take off and become a major deal. Now, this system needs to start moving like north, like right now. And is it moving northwards? I mean, not that much. The last time I checked, it was at 16.6 north, and it's at 53, 52 actually west. So it still has a ways to go to affect the islands, but I know these islands, I think they put on watch. I don't know if it's a hurricane watch or tropical storm watch. We could go to the news and check that out real quick. Let's see, I have it up somewhere around here. Give me 1 sec so I could get it set up for us. Here it is. Okay, let's go over here and let's check this out.
We got a lot going on. We've got the hurricane hunters sampling what's happening in one tropical disturbance, and they're on their way for the first time to see what's happening with Tropical Storm Erin, the storm we've been telling you about all week here on Fox Weather. That's the brand new update. 60 miles per hour. Its intensity is unchanged. Its motion is unchanged. West at 17 miles per hour. Its minimum central pressure estimated at 998 millibars. That's 1 millibar down. But we know as the pressure drops, storms getting stronger. Inverse relationship, the winds go up. So a healthy look. Let's dig into what's happening right now with this new advisory from the National Hurricane Center. And you're looking at what's changed. And as I mentioned,
the winds are up a little bit, but still moving west.
Dropping just subtly, but it
just went down 1 millibar.
The things that are important. That pressure has been dropping throughout the day today, an indicator that area of low pressure.
I mean, it hasn't been dropping that much. It needs to drop a little bit more faster if it's going to develop.
Gradually, it's found itself into an
environment. That's why it's moving still west.
That. And
but it's going to move a little north. That's a little jog.
48 hours. So with that, you look at this satellite presentation, some of those whites and purples, pinks in through there. Those are very cold cloud tops, tall, powerful thunderstorms close to its center of circulation. Those are some of the things you look for in a healthy tropical system. But there are also things that jump out as still holding this storm back. And it's the flatness of the northeastern quadrant of that. You can see how it flattens out in through here, where you have all this thunderstorm activity bubbling on up. That's some wind shear. There's an upper level high pressure just off to the north. You get a clockwise flow around that. This plays nice, something like this. That's pushing on the storm and doing a couple things. It makes it lopsided. It doesn't have that vertically stacked, healthy structure that a tropical system looks to develop. And it's also still pushing in some of the dust, which isn't as abundant as it has been the last several days, but there's still some around. And that wind shear pushes that dry air and that dust into the circulation.
I don't know. The storm looks a little nice.
A little bit. And you can see this with the wind flow.
You don't want a rapid development right now.
What I was talking about with that high. you get a flow something like this, which is pushing on the storm. So better conditions than what this has been dealing with the last few days, but not perfect yet. It gets to a point here as we head through the next couple of days where things, unfortunately,
It's going to
get
come
really
close
healthy for Erin, and that's why the
to the
forecast is
Leeward
supposed to
Islands,
become a hurricane, eventually
St.
a major,
Thomas,
and
Puerto
it
Rico. It's going to
corresponds
come really
well
close.
with the sea surface temperatures, the fuel of a tropical system that's
I'm
sourced
just
of
worried
it
about
in
me in
through
the
here.
north
And
because
now
I
we've
live
got
in
sea surface
Connecticut.
temperatures that are in the
So that's
middle
why I'm
80s,
monitoring this one
eventually
really
some upper
closely.
80s, and watch
Because
how
this
the
beast
intensity of
comes
this
to me.
storm responds to that. A hurricane, if not tonight, it'll be at some point
And I'm
tomorrow.
definitely going to have to get
Category
prepared
1
for it.
Friday evening. By Sunday evening, this is a
I
major
need to get a
hurricane,
lot
a
of
Cat
water,
3,
that's all.
and it's still getting stronger. By Tuesday evening, we're talking about
Probably gonna do that
maximum
tomorrow.
sustained winds up to 125 miles per hour. So that's one aspect of it, the intensity, but the size of the storm is also growing. I actually want to look at that real quick in the latest update that just came in at 5 p.m. See if they've analyzed the wind field as any larger. No, it still extends out just 60 miles. So this is a small circulation for now with tropical storm force winds that only extend out 60 miles as the crow flies from Erin's center. That is not a big storm, but it'll become one as we move forward through the next several days. This is what's new in the latest
look,
update
tropical
coming in.
storm watches.
Number of these entities,
There we go.
governments of these
Anguilla,
nations, these
St.
islands,
Martin,
Leeward Islands. We've got
Barbados.
tropical storm
They-
watches
all
that are
these-
up, and that will trigger
Listen,
the
it's
National
gonna
Hurricane Center now. So we're
affect
going to get
these people.
intermediate
No matter
advisories
what, they're
coming
gonna
in.
get
So we'll get
rain.
another
They're
one
gonna
at
get
8
wind.
p.m. That could actually be an important one because of what we were talking about. The hurricane hunters are en route. They had pre-positioned. It was something we were talking about
Bermuda.
right here on Fox Weather Now yesterday, how they were moving their aircraft and some of their assets down to the Caribbean because it's a long flight from either Lakeland, Florida, or Biloxi, Mississippi. They were getting ready to get out and sample the storm, and they're doing that important work right now. They're on their way, and come the next couple of hours,
This is
we'll start
not
to see
good.
some data coming in from inside the tropical system.
So Saturday
measured
morning
there, and it'll tell us a lot
will
about
be
the
very
structure
important.
of this whole system.
Tomorrow is going
and
to
what
be
it could do
important.
moving
Where it's
forward.
going to be at.
So expect some updates as we move through the next several hours. This is the time to be ready, which we consider the earliest
I think
reasonable time.
the weather people
where
don't
winds
help.
could reach tropical storm force.
These meteorologists
levels.
don't help.
Just from a safety standpoint, great product the NHC puts out for these places, the Leeward Islands. It's by tomorrow evening, so that's why those watches are up. Even though the core of this is expected to pass off to the north, you could get some gusty squalls.
Hey,
that
Chloe.
run
Hey,
through.
Albie. I just
And part
opened
of
up
the story
StreamYard. I
here,
didn't
we
have
talked
the
about the
StreamYard
storm that would
open.
be getting bigger, the wind field
Hope you guys
intensity
are
coming up. That
good
appears
today.
to be quite locked in. There are a lot of question marks still long term.
It's
This
all
isn't
looking
one
Category
of them.
3.
All of the forecast models now bring this up to Category 3 major hurricane intensity. Some actually toe the line or reach Cat 4, which you should always be prepared for anyway.
That's what
At
I'm
least
worried
one
about.
category up than what
I'm
the
worried
NHC
about if it
forecast
comes
is
up here to the
predicting.
northeast.
This is Tuesday. So at that point, there
Texas
is more
is going to
spread.
get a
The
storm.
most reasonable or the consensus.
We're going to check out the storm
smart
in Texas,
average
too.
thinking of forecast models would be
You see
somewhere
how it moves
maybe
out?
halfway between Outer Banks and Bermuda.
Yeah,
that
don't
distance of
come this way.
650 miles, maybe hugging a little bit closer to Bermuda.
It's going to give like a lot of big waves. We're going to have like a lot of rip currents and stuff like that. Yeah, that's understandable. I think the weather, it's in good timing. You know, it's the beginning of probably in the middle of August now. It's already the middle of August. Holy shit. Time is flying by. Next thing you know, it's September, October, and we're back in winter. It's like, no, we're back in fall and winter. I love fall. I look forward to this fall and taking a trip up to Massachusetts to the Yankee Candle Factory. I love going there in the fall. The ride is beautiful. You see the leaves. You can feel the chill in the air. I could pass by Cheech and Chong and pick me up a joint and smoke it before going to Yankee Candle and spending money on beautiful candles that I love. Yeah, that's fun. Let's see. I got some more news here. Let's just go right to the news. Crazy news. Let's do some crazy news. What's up with this DOJ employee charged in Subway sandwich attack? This guy threw a sandwich at a federal officer. Is he fucking crazy? Let's find out together, because I think, it gives me the moment. Let me set them all up, because I do have a lot of windows open for us to watch. So it just takes me a moment to just get them all lined up. So let me just line them up. We got some about the homeless in DC. We got some ICE in California. We got what is this one about? Some major sex trafficking bust. I'm gonna check that out too. We got Adam Schiff committed many crimes, says a congressman, which we are going to check that one out too, because I would like to hear the drama on that. Hear the gossip, the drama gossip on that one. We also got what is this one? Oh, this one is this is not welcome news for Hunter Biden. I wonder what's not welcome for him. I bet you it's a lawsuit. Melania better sue though out of Hunter Biden. Like, I think that's what it's gonna be. It's a big lawsuit against him. Let me see. Okay, so we already did this one. Oh, and I got some Tyson De La Cruz. I got a back-to-back on Tyson. It's a rarity, but we do have a back-to-back today. So we're gonna watch this at the end. While I finish the show, we'll watch back-to-back Tyson. All right, so let's go ahead and let's go to the sandwich guy. He attacked a police officer with a Subway sandwich. What? Do you know how many starving people there are out there in this world that would have loved to have that piece of sandwich that you just threw on the floor? That's sad. All right, let's get to it.
Back here on live now from Fox 2:32 on the East Coast, 11:32 on the West Coast. I do want to get you to a developing story that we have been following, as a Justice Department employee has been fired and charged with a felony after investigators say they identified him as the man seen in this video throwing a Subway sandwich at a federal officer. The footage obtained by our Fox 5 DC station shows the incident earlier this week during a confrontation in downtown Washington, D.C.
What's going on with him?
Allege the man is now former DOJ employee Sean Dunn, and that he yelled profanities at a U.S. Customs and Border Protection agent before hurling that sandwich right at him, and then, as you can see, taking off running. Attorney General Pam Bondi posted about this earlier on today here on social media, and I do want to pop that up for you. She said, "If you touch any law enforcement officer, we will come after you. I just learned that this defendant worked at the Department of Justice no longer. Not only is he fired, he has been charged with a felony. This is an example of the deep state we have been up against for 7 months as we work to refocus DOJ. You will not work in this administration while disrespecting our government and law enforcement." I do want to discuss all of this further as we get more and more details on the developing story. Nima Rahmani, a friend of the show, is the president of West Coast Trial Lawyers, and he's a former federal prosecutor. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Of course, Josh. Thanks for having me as always.
Of course. And first off, I did want to ask you overall about the situation in general, because we are talking about felony assault. How exactly does that differ from maybe simple assault? And does a sandwich meet the criteria of any of that?
Yes.
Josh, you're spot on. This is not felony assault. Felony requires some sort of weapon, usually a deadly weapon.
It was a sandwich.
Or substantial bodily injury. And throwing a Subway sandwich at someone may be assault, but it's simple assault. It's a misdemeanor under 111 United States Code. Again, it's something that's a wobbler. For folks who practice criminal law, which means it can be charged as a misdemeanor or a felony. So
It's
I
going to be
understand
charged
what
with
Pam
felony.
Bondi's doing. She's trying to protect federal law enforcement officers, but no judge in this country on either side of the political aisle, regardless of who appointed them, is going to move forward with a felony assault trial here. This will be a misdemeanor, and it will be for a magistrate, which is a lower judge in federal court.
And I did want to ask, if
No,
this
we'll see.
does end up getting prosecuted as a
Where
felony
they
assault, how do
send
the
them.
penalties kind of differ when you're talking about a felony assault versus a simple assault?
The key difference between a misdemeanor and a felony is jail time. And a felony is punishable by more than a year in federal prison. A misdemeanor is a year or less. So I'm not necessarily saying that this is going to be a jail case at all. It might be a fine, might be a probation, but a felony does put you in that significant jail time, a year or
This
more
guy
in
must
prison.
have been drunk or something.
When we're talking
I don't know
about a
what's going on.
DOJ employee now, according to Pam Bondi, a former DOJ employee, does that change any of the legal aspects of the case and the situation as a whole?
It doesn't. Now, obviously, DOJ employees should be held to a higher standard, but we're really talking about an administrative issue.
Hey,
They are
Seven.
at-will employees,
How you
but
doing, brother?
they can be let go for misconduct or conduct unbecoming a public service. They do have civil service protections, which means they have the right to notice and a hearing. But in this particular case, we've all seen the video. When he was caught, he admitted to throwing the Subway sandwich. Really, the only potential defense here is that it wasn't me. And I think that's going to be very difficult to prove. So
It's on
I
camera.
expect him to be out of a job and be looking for a new job in the private sector. But I don't expect Mr. Dunn to be facing any felony charges here. We're likely going to see some sort of plea or a dismissal by the judge that gets assigned this case.
And on that note here, can Dunn actually claim that his actions were maybe a form of political protest, expression,
do that.
or does the physical nature here of the act limit that defense as you're talking about not necessarily a deadly weapon, but an object that was thrown at that officer?
Josh, you're on fire today. You're absolutely right. There's a difference between speech and conduct. So obviously political speech is protected under the First Amendment, but conduct is not. So conduct always crosses the line from
Look how he's
protected
running.
First Amendment free speech activity to potential misconduct. So assault is never protected. Him yelling fascist, maybe even yelling profanities, that can't be prosecuted. But it's really that sandwich throwing, that physical
You got
touching
hit
that
by a
crosses
car.
the line from protected activity to criminal conduct.
All right. Nima Rahmani, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here and discuss all of this further. Obviously, a story that is still developing, so I'm sure a lot more information and developments will happen in the coming days here. Anything else that I missed? Anything you want to add here before I let you go?
Well, Josh, this is something that we're probably going to see a lot more of. Obviously, in Washington, D.C., we're seeing federal law enforcement step in, National Guard,
Please
and
give it to me.
obviously this is something that's a big deal for this administration. So expect to see a lot more conflict and potentially a lot more charges when you're dealing with federal officers in cities like Washington, D.C. and potentially elsewhere.
Nima Rahmani, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on Live Now. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Josh.
Wow.
Talk to you soon.
We're going to go right to the next one.
We are now seeing protests break out in Washington, D.C. over President Trump's push to make the streets of our capital safe again. Protesters in D.C.'s Northwest Corridor confronted law enforcement agents conducting a vehicle checkpoint. They screamed things like, "Get off our streets" and "Go home fascists." Not sure why they're not screaming, "Get off our streets" to the criminals, but that's a different story. All of this backlash comes after the president's vow to make D.C. safe again, and the White House says agents and the National Guard will be patrolling the streets 24/7. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Emily Campagno here with my co-host, Harris Faulkner. And also joining us today, Molly Lyon, Fox News correspondent, Marie
Rick,
Harth,
over
Fox
here.
News contributor and former State Department spokesperson under President Obama, and Paul Morrow, Fox News contributor, attorney, and retired NYPD inspector.
And Rick.
Now, activist groups are taking issue with President
Sorry,
Trump's
get it.
initiative to properly charge minors in D.C. responsible for committing violent crimes.
Hey, if you're
like
going to hit me with a sandwich,
carjacking, up
better be a
almost
good-ass hoagie.
600%.
Seven, you know about the
Free
hoagies.
DC Project posted this
Hey, if you're
message
going to hit
earlier
me with
this
a
month,
hoagie,
claiming that, quote, A 14-year-old
I
is a
might like
child. Full
I don't
stop.
know.
We reject Trump's threats and the criminalization
I
of
might
our
like
youth.
it.
But earlier this year, police
Like,
picked up
Rick, what are
one
you talking about?
14-year-old
I
girl
don't know.
connected to 2 armed carjackings
Look at
within
this.
6 hours.
14-year-old
Meanwhile,
girl
DC
charged.
officials say one man has been charged with a felony assault after he hurled a Subway sandwich at a border agent. Watch.
Subway sandwich. Damn. This is how you do not treat a Subway sandwich. Boom! Oh, he's done. He's running. He's sitting down. He can't run fast. I think he's running in sandals.
Now we're learning that man allegedly walked up to those agents and called them fascists before the alleged assault.
Oh.
Attorney General Pam Bondi says that the suspect was actually a DOJ employee and has been promptly fired. And U.S. Attorney for Washington, Jeanine Pirro, sharing this message after the incident.
That's wild.
The president's message to the criminals was, if you spit, we hit. Well, we didn't quite do that the other night when an individual went up to one of the federal law enforcement officers and started jumping up and down, screaming at him, berating him, yelling at him. And then he took a Subway sandwich about this big and took it and threw it at the officer. He thought it was funny.
It
Well,
looked
he
like a
doesn't think
12
it's funny today because we charged him with a felony, assault on a police officer. And we're going to back the police to the hilt. So there, stick your Subway sandwich somewhere else.
I love that. Paul, so much to unpack here, but I have to just start it with this because what I found so patently offensive about that video, the provocation of a border agent there from the luxury of someone who knows that that person will exhibit restraint, upholding the caliber and the professionalism of that role, and yet then runs like a coward in his pink top when he threw the Subway sandwich because he couldn't take it. He could dish it, but he couldn't take it. So now he's going to take it after the felony assault conviction.
Yeah, and he's wearing, the cops are wearing 20, 30 pounds of stuff, and he still couldn't outrun them. So, look, this is one of those things where you have to say to yourself, we've all had those moments where you wake up the next day and say, I did what last night? And I think you got about the worst case example here because this guy's life just went sideways, and good, because it does track to the deep state stuff that you've heard about. That guy is DOJ. And he thought that that was permissible. That tells you all you need to know. Now, to expand the story real quick. Look, I think of this as all of this going on in D.C. right now is a microcosm of the civil war going on inside the Democratic Party. Because as we've seen, a lot of media entities now are saying, we're aware of the fact that we got a crime problem here. Of course, because they work there. So, it hits home. And so they're copping to it now. But so they're behind the scenes, they like all of this, but you have to remember that there's going to be the real diehards who are going to be out there fighting, throwing sandwiches, protesting, screaming, and yelling. So this kind of captures all of that. Donald Trump is well within his legal rights to do what he's doing in D.C. And he promised that he was going to be cleaning up our cities. Yeah, he did. So that was part of it. So he started that. What they really fear, this is what the hardliners really fear, that it's going to work.
I wonder what type of sandwich it was.
Works. It's exportable potentially to other cities. And so the nut job archipelago of all of our other blue cities are sitting there saying, oh, God, is he going to do that to us? Here's the thing, though, we have to remember. There's a very limiting principle.
You're getting a system out there in Texas.
The other cities
Chloe.
are not. And so we have to recognize that
I don't know
Donald
if it's
Trump's
your
power,
neighborhood,
even as
though.
president, is limited when it comes to the federal government doing this kind of thing in cities outside.
We're going to look at it
DC.
next.
I want to focus for a moment on what I feel is so clearly been emphasized by U.S. Attorney Pirro and AG Pambani and the president, which is
Set it up.
our concern right now is we are protecting the citizens. And I'm not quite sure why the protesters seem intent on protecting the criminals. And the full stop child, well, these children are doing horrifically violent adult crimes. And so they will be prosecuted as such. When did it get skewed, and how is that defensible as we continue moving forward?
Well, look, the voices of skewing have some complicit players that have megaphones. We call them the legacy and liberal media. So, I mean, there is an opportunity for the left to continue to utilize, even though the ratings may be down in most cases, there's still voices and preaching to their own choirs. And so people are more likely to believe that if they're from the left and really do feel like they hate Trump and hate everybody who supports him. That still exists in this country. That divide has not gone away. But I do think it's interesting that people don't give President Trump enough credit to have meant what he said, because he clearly is walking out what he preached. And what he said was, I promise you. He said this to me as a candidate. I promise you what I will do is I will reach across the aisle, particularly in Democrat-led cities, and I want to help them clean this up. This was just hours before he was shot. Thankfully survived the first assassination attempt on his life in Butler, PA. We were at Mar-a-Lago. Watch this.
The fact is that Democrat-run cities are doing very poorly. They're doing very poorly.
So what do you
Crime
as president do?
And in every case, without virtually exception, the top 25 worst cities, worst crime cities are Democrats. It's very sad. I want to rebuild our cities. One of the things I want to do is rebuild our cities. I'm going to have to work with Democrats, and I expect that they'd want to do that. And I look forward to doing that. We have to rebuild our cities. Our cities are falling down. Our cities are an embarrassment.
It makes me want to light up.
Be very, very careful on crime.
Isn't that exactly what he's saying now? His last word was crime.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nothing he is doing right now is inconsistent with what he promised the majority of people in this country that he would do. And they voted for him. They weren't all MAGA. They weren't even all independents, like on the fence or something. No, some of these people were Democrats. Many of them were people of color living in these cities that said, and they're saying it now, we need something different. Muriel Bowser, the mayor of D.C., just yesterday. Well, look, I mean, I'll work with the federal government. They didn't have the resources or the planning. I don't know what the deficit was, but this is where we are now. So what were Democrats doing that we couldn't dig ourselves as a community out of a hole? I mean, this is not the D.C. I remember as a kid when my dad was stationed at the Pentagon, but it is what we have now. And we have a president who's willing to lean in and fix it.
Yeah. When we talk about the messaging, we've seen all of these interviews. Some of them are on Fox News. Some of them are on some of these other entities all across the country of people being interviewed in Washington talking about how impacted they have been by the crime. You know, so you can talk about some of the statistics that have come out in some of the liberal media where they push to say crime is not as big of an issue or it's trending in the right direction. But the lived experience that we're hearing from people on the street has been very different. There's also the president has the right to do this right now. And we know that it's constitutionally fair and that in theory, Congress could act within less than the next 30 days to ensure that it can continue. And we'll see if there's a major change in Washington. I think right now, as you just saw with the Judge Jeanine Pirro, who's now, of course, the U.S. attorney there, it's about messaging. It's not about the ham sandwich. People are going to laugh about that and make jokes about let's indict the thrower and not the sandwich. But she's taking this very seriously and saying it's not just about the crime and the chaos being reined in, but about the agents that have been put out there on the street to do their work, not being taken advantage of, not being assaulted and violently assaulted, and saying that they're going to stand up to that as well.
Yeah. And Marie, I wanted to ask you about how Paul left off, which is that granted, DC is in a different scenario than the other cities here in the United States for obvious reasons. But within the protective pocket, let's to make a football analogy. So if the president was a pocket passer, right, he has this pocket protected in this time. Their aims are to dismantle and eradicate those laws that have been enacted by the very left-leaning DC City Council, the Youth Rehabilitation Act, the Age of Criminality, the Law and Order, and see that it will hold, it will stick. So my point is, in the protection of DC, the model will be, this is how law and order can be enforced at the local and state level. So will that model then translate and be accepted by all of these other Democrat cities that need help too?
Well, question number one is a lot of the cities with the most crime in the country are led by Republicans. This is not just a Democratic city problem. So the president doesn't talk about those, but there are a lot around the country in that list of murders, violent crimes that are Republican led. Number two, I've lived in Washington since 2006. In the Washington, D.C. area and in Washington itself.
Washington's crazy.
Of course, we should have fewer carjackings, fewer crime. I believe that. You don't put a federal agent checkpoint on 14th Street in Washington, D.C., which is what happened last night. You know, senators and congresspeople and people that work in the White House go to dinner. They put a federal checkpoint on 14th Street and stopped every car. That is not actually addressing the crime problem in Washington. So while I hope they make Washington safer, I hope they make all of these places safer. That's not how to do it. That's performative. And the third point I would make, as a Washingtonian for many decades, is that it is very rich to say we are going to charge the sandwich thrower with a felony. When I was there on January 6th, and all of those people that assaulted police officers got pardoned, not just the nonviolent ones, not just the ones that went into the Capitol, everyone, including the ones that went after police officers, got pardoned. So don't tell me we care, that this administration cares about protecting police officers when they did not care about those on January 6th.
Respectfully,
Oh,
can we
yes,
just state
Rina.
They
that
got
one-
pardoned. No, those were
How
police
you doing,
officers,
Rina?
Emily, and they got
I want to talk about DC for a second.
But that
For
was
once,
in
without
DC.
having-
That was in DC. Those were DC police
Can I just start with the fact checking on
Those
what
were
you said?
DC police
Fumando
officers.
y mirando la
The
noticia.
top 10 cities for
Ya
murder
tú sabes.
in 2025. St. Louis, Missouri. Who's leading it?
Where's cities like
Yeah,
Memphis,
hold on.
Nashville?
Memphis is second. You said
Memphis.
Nashville's
you said a
Democrat.
vast majority, a lot of.
I
You
said a
said
lot
those
of.
were okay. Top 10.
Okay.
St. Louis, Memphis. One
Memphis.
for your column. Baltimore, Detroit, New Orleans,
Mhm.
Little Rock.
Little Rock, right? A
Two
lot
for
of.
your column. Two.
Okay.
2 out of the 10.
Who's the mayor of New
Okay,
Orleans?
listen.
That
Oakland,
one that was in first class headed to France
Praise
Oakland,
God.
that got
Cleveland,
corruption charges.
Cleveland.
Tacoma, and Kansas City.
So how many of those are red states? Ohio's a red
You
state.
Michael?
Kansas is a red
Majority-
state.
The mayor of
Diana?
About the cities,
You were
right?
talking about the city. I'm just listening to what you said.
Harris, I said cities that are red. Some of those are, and almost all of those are in states that are led by Republicans.
But who's
Yeah,
in
but
charge of the city?
The city runs their criminal
In
justice
part-
system.
no, not
Furthermore, that's their
entirely.
duty. The
But wait,
district attorney is the
majority-
one who makes the call as to
But
what's
can I
going to be
just say,
prosecuted.
The president was right. The
Furthermore,
majority of those
you're
cities.
missing a major point. You're using murder as the metric. Let's go to New York City, where murders are down, all right? And that's despite the criminal justice reforms. What we're talking about here is the quality of life of the people who live here. The city has
I agree
fallen
with
to
you,
ruin.
Paul.
And that
Right.
stuff just doesn't
Right.
get
I
enforced.
agree with you. And I
DC
think
has a 6 times
someone who
higher
lives-
homicide
All
rate
right.
than New York
It's
City.
Emily's segment, and I'm going to ask her for grace to give an example. Is that okay? Okay. A gunman has opened fire, and this is just recently reported not too long ago. It was under Biden's watch. A gunman opened fire outside of a restaurant in an upscale area of Washington, D.C., about a mile from the White House. Do you remember that night? Because you were living there, and diners at outside tables ran for cover. Look, this didn't just happen yesterday. This has been going on, and it's been a TikTok, which is why during the time that the president was running as a candidate, he was saying, look, there are problems that have been building. So this is a good example because it didn't just happen yesterday. It happened on Biden's watch. And I think it's worth bringing these things up because these are real felt crimes.
I
And the
agree, I live
majority
there.
of those cities are Democrat-led. I read you the top 10. I think you had 3.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m.
To get it set up here real quick. Let's go. Which one should we go? Let's go with this one. That way I could get this one out the way. Here we go. All right, let's see what this is about.
I want to bring in George Washington University law professor, our friend Jonathan Turley. Nice to see you, sir. Good morning to you.
Thank you, Bill. Good to see you.
Here is Tom Homan with Martha yesterday afternoon.
I said from day one, all the way back to the Republican National Convention, that President Trump will wipe the cartels off the face of the earth. And he would designate them terrorist organization, and he has. The Biden administration could have asked for cartel members to be extradited to this country. They didn't. President Trump has committed to American people to make this country safe again. He's going to save lives. He's going to shut down the cartels and wipe them off the face of the earth, and that's exactly what he's doing.
The allegations
lindo
against
baby
Guzman
Michael.
Castro is that he shipped a lot of cocaine from Guatemala through Mexico and into the United
Tuviste
States.
los videos
And
que
your
te puse ahí en
experience
el YouTube Shorts. Te puse ahí como
these
2 o 3
individuals.
videos de los
Well,
gatos.
first of all, Bill, it's very important to note how extraordinary this is. Over 24 high-ranking drug cartel members shipped to the United States. That is going to send a chilling message to everyone in the drug trade in Mexico. This has not happened under prior presidents, this is where these guys least want to go. You know, there's an
Oh shit,
expression
Ricky speaks
in some of these
Spanish in the
areas
show.
of gold or
Yeah,
lead
I
that they
speak
offer
Spanish.
to prosecutors and judges.
I'm
They're
an
used to
American,
getting special
Puerto Rican.
treatment. They're used to being given a way out, including escape from prisons. That's not going to happen at Supermax. I mean, you're going to go to a real prison, you're going to go for life. And so this is an amazing development. Now, in terms of proving these cases, these people have been on the radar of the DA for years. The amount of evidence against them is quite significant. The individual that you mentioned shipped more than Amazon across the border. I mean, he's considered one of the great traffickers that the government has been pursuing. So for law enforcement, this is just a gold star day to get their hands on these individuals.
So there's another story popping out there, and it involves the First Lady, and it involves Hunter Biden. So apparently Hunter Biden was talking, and he suggested that Epstein is the one who introduced Melania and Donald Trump to one another here in New York City. And they say this is not true. We met in 1998 at a Fashion Week party in New York City. Here's the statement on behalf of the lawyer for the First Lady. Failure to comply. She wants him to retract the statement, okay? Failure to comply will leave Mrs. Trump in no choice but to pursue any and all legal rights and remedies available to her to recover the overwhelming financial and reputational harm that you have caused her to suffer. They call this extremely salacious. Retract it now. And I think Hunter Biden was on a YouTube show just yesterday, perhaps, and he said, in response, blank that. Does he pull the words back?
Well, there's in the notice letter they said they'll be seeking $1 billion, and I can say right now without discovery he doesn't have it. That's a lot of paintings that he would have to move, and their value has gone down dramatically since his father left office.
A lot of paintings.
The fact is
He's
that
gonna go around just
the First Lady has succeeded in getting multiple news outlets to retract this story. They really go after the source, this author named Wolf, who's been repeatedly challenged in terms of the accuracy of things that he has written about the Trump family, the Trump administration. Hunter Biden is known to be in tough financial straits. He was suing people left and right, including for defamation, as sort of a scorched earth approach when his father was president. He's abandoned many of those lawsuits. And the reason cited is he doesn't have any money to pay his lawyers. So this is not exactly welcome news for Hunter Biden.
Michael Wolff is the author to whom you are referring, who got into some deep water during Trump 1.0. We'll see if the pursuit continues. My guess is
all
yes,
he has to do is retract.
unless you get a retraction from Hunter Biden, but we'll see in time. Thank you, Jonathan Turley. Appreciate that.
It'll be cheaper for him.
I'm Steve Dusey. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
It'll be
And
cheaper
I'm
if he
Ainsley Earhart. And
retracts
click
it.
here to
You know what
subscribe
I
to the
mean?
Fox News YouTube
Because
page
Melania
to catch
could hit
our
him hard for defamation. A lot of it could go her way, and it could be really, really bad for Hunter. Let's check out this next one here. Let me set it up. And we're going to watch together. Actually, before we do that, I wanted to show you guys this. Let me set this up. Okay, put it back. Here we are. And this is in the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf America, whatever you want to call it. I call it, I don't know. It's the Gulf. And we got a system here that's heading towards Brownsville. Now, it looks like it's trying to kind of like a rapid fire, like a rapid, it can be developing. Would it turn into a tropical storm before landfall? Maybe. It could be a tropical storm. I'm not thinking no hurricane. That'd be crazy, right? It like turn into a hurricane and went straight in. That'd be wild. But it's going too fast. If it was going slower, then yes, maybe. But you can see all the energy pushing, and it's pushing in the Gulf, and everything's pushing out. So this storm's not gonna have a good chance to develop. But if it did, it would have turned into a monster. But I can see the face right here, like right there. I see a face. hold on. Let me see if I can pause it. It looks like a face to me right here. Like dark eyes here, the nose, the mouth, the light shading, like alien looking. It looks like an alien. Alien mermaid. Look, he has a fin tail. Look, it's a mermaid. It could be a walrus. It looks like, I don't know. It has a weird looking face to me. Definitely has a face. I don't know. I'm really good at just looking things and just like breaking it down. Huh. Okay. Well, let me go ahead and play it. Yeah, it looks like a face. Well, that's going to Texas, into Brownsville area here on the southern, and it might crawl up and go up north. And you gotta remember, these type of storms, it doesn't matter if it's a hurricane, not. It's very tropical. It looks like it's holding heavy rains. This will flood your city wherever it hits, like inland. We're talking about maybe 2 or 3 days away that you guys not even paying attention to the storm, and the storm could be up here and dump like heavy rain and cause major flooding. Look what happened to Tennessee. Look what happened to the Carolinas. Look what happened to Texas. You know, you can't trust these fucking storms anymore because the sun is manipulating them. They're causing the rain to come down even harder and more. Like the sun energy, we're being hit by solar flares. Like I hate, like I gotta explain to you guys, like children, like, okay, the sun released a lot of energy as called solar flares that exploded from the sun. And it wasn't just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 heading towards Earth. You know, we went through 3 already, and we're going through more energy that's coming in, and it's causing the Earth to get loose. It gets loose, and right now the Earth is starting to move because it's feeling the energy, and that's where you're getting earthquakes and all over the place. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if California gets hit by a big earthquake because of what's going on, or somewhere here in the Northeast get hit by a big earthquake. Like, that would be nuts. But looking at the weather, looking back here, Texas, you're gonna get a lot of rain coming up very soon, and this monster that's creeping. He's creeping, but he's moving. It's moving. She's moving. So she's a little bit higher, I think. She's still below Puerto Rico, but if she keeps moving, if she keeps dragging it up this way, then she'll be off to the sea. But that puts me in a bad predicament because it's coming further south. We thought it was going to be further this way, and it's not. It's coming like down this way. And if it does that, it can hook up and then come right at me. Here in Connecticut, this is the bullseye. You guys want to turn this hurricane and hit me? I don't mind. We could try. We could try to get this hurricane to hit me in Connecticut and see if your energy is strong enough to move this hurricane towards where I'm at. Right here. Right where the cursor is. Connecticut. That's a big storm. It says it's supposed to slow down. And when it slows down, it's going to get stronger. And that's when it turns into the monster Erin. And where she goes, nobody knows. I'm just thinking, wow, it's been a long time since I've been in a hurricane or been inside a hurricane. Want to make it one last run? Like, what do you mean one last run? Like, yeah, let's go for the hurricane to hit Connecticut and let it come straight to Connecticut. Like, bullseye. Like, no, we may have now show. We may not have a show if I did that just because it'll be bad weather. A lot of people will lose their lives. It will cost. It may cost if it's a category 3 hitting us. Oh my god, we might lose like $500 billion. That's how much of a huge effect it will do for the whole infrastructure and everything. It's just, I wouldn't want to go through that. 1938 hurricane that hit Connecticut killed 125 people. Killed a total of 700 between New York, Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, Massachusetts, I said already, New Hampshire. Yeah, and upwards. Like, a lot of people died. And could something like that kill a large amount of people today? Are we ready today for a storm to hit us? I don't think so. It's not gonna be good. It looks scary. The storm looks scary. Yeah, it needs to cool down where you're at. It's hot, right? Where you're at. Well, I can show you again. Let's go back here and let me go to the Texas. Let's go to the Texas. I want to go to the Gulf. Let's see if I can do America. Let's see, land, USA. So, give it a second so it can load up. Monsoon season is up and running. Oof! Look at this system. Whatever this system was that came in, it just blew up and just dumping lots of rain. But then you got this little system in the Gulf that's just coming out of nowhere, and it might be a depression maybe when it makes landing. Like, it'll call it like a TD and give it a number, and then. But look at all this rain that's popping up. Florida sea breeze kicking in on the western side. But up here, we're okay. Here in Connecticut, not so bad. The heavy rains were last night. That's already off on the coast. So it looks very clear outside, and it was actually really nice today. But we're supposed to have an early winter this year. We're in the makings for early winter. This area, like in here, they're gonna be like crazy with snow. Like, I'm circling Kentucky, like western portion of Tennessee, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York. Like, you guys are gonna get like hammered with snow, but we're gonna get our fair share of heavy snow. I feel like the Northeast is gonna have a couple of northeasters that are gonna come up, and not only that, but we're gonna get a couple of strong clipper or better clippers that are gonna come through and cross over and dump a whole bunch of snow. We're in a neutral. When it's in neutral with the winds down in the Pacific, it plays a big role around the world. And usually when they're non neutral, that tends to be more snow for us in the Northeast. So, looking for it. See what happens. The past few years we've been lucky. we've been having a mild winter. But it's going to be that 1 year. It's going to be. I don't want it to be how it was in 2014. Was it 2014 or 20? No, it was 13. Where we had like back to back to back to back to back clippers. We had I think we had a nor'easter and we had our better clippers. Our better clippers were just coming every 2 days. And it buried the cars, it buried the streets. It was a mess for days. You know, people getting stuck everywhere, trying to get the roads operational. It's just those days when it's like that, you know where I'm at? Right here on the show. Because I ain't putting my ass out there. Hell no. I ain't going out there for no reason. I got people that clean my stuff, to clean the car off. But all right, let's get out of the weather and bring it back to me. And then I'm gonna pick something out for us to watch. Let's go with the protesters. I don't know what's the deal with the protesters. I think they're being paid. That's their job. It's like, what's your job? I protest. They're paid protesters. That's crazy.
Welcome back. Mamdani meets MAGA. The socialist candidate for mayor got a loud message from Staten Island on Wednesday, and it wasn't welcome to the neighborhood.
We don't want you here on Staten Island.
He wants to make everything free. Can't afford that. He's a socialist. You don't live that. We're not socialists.
I think he's on the wrong side of that.
Mamdani kicked off his third anti-Trump event of the week, and he's feeling the heat. The candidate of the people has his own fan holder. You see it on the left of your screen there? He needs to be fanned.
Oh, look at that. I need one of those.
Once a rich kid, always a rich kid. It's interesting, Jillian, to see him there. New York has all different kinds of pockets. Staten Island is a Trump-supporting pocket. But I guess he didn't want to exclude them as he was doing a bigger tour of all of these boroughs. You've got a lot of voters here who are wealthy, who are supporting him. Right. They are embracing socialism to a degree where many people, smart people, are telling me he may actually win.
The irony is that it is these rich elites that are voting for this guy. The working class didn't vote for this guy. People of color didn't actually vote for this guy. And when those rich people leave the state because of his policies, the working class, they're going to be the ones left with the ramifications. They're going to be the ones that have to pick up the pieces. I would give him credit for going and talking to everybody, but to do it as an anti-Trump tour, not I'm running for mayor to represent you, to take care of you. It's like you're going in saying, I'm against what you believe in, want to be your mayor. Like,
You go in, and if you wanted to do it, and say, maybe I can flip some of these people, you would go in and say, here's what I'm going to do for you.
This is why he's a moron, in my view. And he's completely idiotically tone deaf. If he went there, again, if he was doing a listening tour, I want to listen to the people of Staten Island. Okay. They'd still scream at him, by the way, because if you know anything about Staten Island.
Right.
But if you're going to go there and literally urinate on their front lawn and, against Trump, it's so stupid. And I think one of the problems that this poses for his campaign, if I was just like looking at it from a campaign standpoint, is that the more he's exposed, the worse I think it is for him, because the more people get to know his, that let's face it, he's not really a socialist. He's a communist, take over the means of production, all the stuff he says. The more you get to hear that, I think the more it kind of gets people that are on the fence, who might have thought he was a fresh face, and they thought Andrew Cuomo has huge negatives, and for a lot of reasons, they're going to start saying, well, maybe this guy ain't the answer. So I just think it was kind of an unforced error.
See, I disagree. I think he's a fool, but I don't think he's politically stupid.
Well, that was politically stupid.
I don't know.
Was he gonna
actually? Because you know
vote
what?
from there?
Are his opponents doing a 5-borough tour right now?
I don't see them anywhere.
Are they making any news in any of the boroughs showing that they're out there like speaking to the issues?
Well, wait a sec. Wait. Well, first off, Curtis Sliwa is, but be that as it may, he's the Republican. But number two, the problem with Mamdani is the issues. So when he talks about the issues, the more you hear exactly, not like I'm going to give you free rent or free groceries. The more you start hearing about how he wants to socialize grocery stores, how he's going to get rid of cops, but hire a bunch of social workers. The more you start hearing that, and that's what happens when you do things like this. The worse it gets for him. Listen, I saw the recent poll. He's not above 50%, and this race really hasn't started yet.
Well, but
he's at 44% in a four-way, and this race really does start in a few weeks. September is the due date, and I'm going to make this prediction. There's going to be a businessman who's going to go to Eric Adams and Curtis Sliwa and try to get them to form a coalition ticket. That's my prediction.
Okay. Because Sliwa was on Barney the other day, and he was talking about saying we're not focusing on the issues as long as everybody else is talking about who needs to drop out of this race.
And he's right about that. Yeah. I mean, I had him on my podcast. He said the same thing. He said he's not dropping out. He said nobody is dropping out in his view. But I will tell you, there's going to be a businessman that's going to take Curtis.
Do you know who it is?
I can.
Yes. And he's going to say
Bill Ackman.
No.
No.
Curtis wouldn't take Bill Ackman's call, if you know Curtis Sliwa. Who?
Go.
John Katsimatidis.
Could be. Oh.
Well, Charlie's not saying anything, so that's probably says everything.
My lips are sealed.
Oh,
okay,
wow.
Dr. Evil.
Okay, but okay, be that as it may. So there may be somebody who comes in and saves the day for the rest of the field. Mamdani doesn't have to win 50% in this race. He needs to win what he's winning right now.
Well, we get three.
I'm just saying, if you're an opponent of his and you take the tack that he's politically stupid, you're going to lose, because politically he's actually smart in this era. He knows how to use the tools of communication to build a coalition, to win elections, which he did in the primary. So he's a fool on policy, but that doesn't mean he's a fool.
But I think he can almost lied his way in here, and just by keeping his mouth shut.
That's what, Charlie, that's brilliant politically in this place at this
I know.
time.
I think he could do that, but that's not what he's doing.
It's not.
I think it's actually mostly what.
No. He's right now. He is being forced to, because people are like, okay, let's hear about how you're going to socialize groceries.
What Charlie is saying.
Oh, you're going to put words in my mouth now?
No, I'm going to
interpret.
I'm going to interpret for the.
Okay, I'm speaking Italian too.
I'm going to interpret for everybody kind of south of Tom's River.
Capisci inglese.
How about that? See, I have family in
Where's Tom's River?
Jersey.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
It's down.
I'm a Westchester guy.
On the shore. What he's doing, Mamdani is a true believer in communism, and so when you're a true believer, he thinks he's great.
Oh, that's true.
And that he is so arrogant. Now, repeat myself. He's so arrogant. He thinks he's going to make communism, Marxism work when Castro and Stalin couldn't.
So what's he doing with the fan?
Yeah.
Did you see the fan?
Yes.
What commie has a fanner?
When you're a true believer, he will. The more he speaks,
I agree.
At every moment, he's going to let slip what he really plans to do.
That's what I just said.
Right. So he will let slip at more and more and more. You're going to find out. I'm agreeing with
I'm going to do the fan for you.
Right.
Okay?
You'll find out his Communist Manifesto. Have you seen him discuss doing away with personal property?
Yeah.
In that clip?
That's scary.
But I've also seen him lie, guys.
Prisons?
I've seen him.
Crazy,
I've seen him say that he wants to defund the police and have social
Yes.
workers go in to
He
solve
did try to walk
disputes.
that back, though.
But then he lied and said, "I don't want to defund the police."
Right.
So I hear you
that's a
taking on that. We got to let him talk and get it out there. But
Exactly.
he's slippery.
That's a
he
construction.
flip-flops.
He's also taking
defund the
pages from
police is a
Trump's
construct-
book. He's trying to be populist. It's a different approach. It's
Right.
communism, thinly veiled as democratic socialism. He is essentially saying, like, I hear your economic woes.
Yeah.
The policy is a catastrophe, but he looked at what worked for Trump. Trump was speaking to the everyday American who was struggling to make ends meet. That's the page that
But he had
stole
real
out of
good
that book.
policies about it.
Of course, his policies are catastrophic. But I'm agreeing with you politically that he was like, what's working here?
Right. And he seized affordability.
Yes.
And that resonates.
Yes, and
with
it's a
people.
huge issue for
Trump
people.
went to New York and he talked to people who weren't supposed to want to vote for him, and he got credit whether or not they voted for him. And Donnie goes to Staten Island. They may not vote for him, but he went to Staten
Yeah, but
Island.
Trump actually talked about issues, not about defunding the police. And by the way, when they say he's not for defunding the police, that's a construct, right? Defunding the police, what does it mean? It's not like we're just going to start firing cops. It's like we're going to take money from the cops and create social workers. So you're not really defunding. You're funding the
it's
social
changing the
workers.
system.
Yes.
But
yeah.
The Republicans and conservatives, not just in New York City, but across this country, need to take everything that he says, and not from the past, but take these bon mots and put them in social media. And they need to fight Mondani's social media game with an even more fiery one.
Yeah, and when he
to
stands
expose him
with Elizabeth Warren, and she says we're going to experiment with public-run grocery stores, and he's standing there nodding his head. Believe him, when people tell you who they are, you need to understand they're showing you their real colors.
Yep. That's crazy. That's wild. Let's go to this next story.
What's going on here? Hey, now we're here making Los Angeles a safer place since we don't have politicians. We do that ourselves.
Enjoy. Hello. Damn, what's happening?
What is it about?
What is it about? What's happening? Y'all trying to get him out of here?
I don't know what's happening. Border Patrol conducts raids outside Tombstone's press conference. Oh shit. ICE. I'm about to say, police, that's supposed to be on those lines. Better back that bitch up a little bit. Write that police a ticket. Oh, they got scooters.
We'll take care of you. I was like, I was ready to go yesterday.
I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, so I'll text you.
Seems like ICE is there. Ice, baby. That's what's happening. I don't know. I'm confused. I don't know. I am confused. What was that? Let me see. What's the next one? Let's go over here. Let's check this one out.
Agents out on the streets of D.C. working to clean up the Capitol on behalf of the president's orders. Also, as they ramp up their efforts, we're reminded of the painful reality for the victims and families who have been impacted by violent crime in our nation's capital.
My brother is not a number. All these people are not numbers. They are humans.
It is frankly due to the grace of God that the 4 steps he did get in didn't kill me. While I was sitting in the hospital recovering, I found out my attacker had just been released from prison the day prior.
I go to those crime scenes.
What?
I sit with those families who the medical examiners is picking their bodies up off the ground. I deal with this. It is a problem. I deal with the fact of me having a paralyzed son, the mental anguish that he goes through.
I looked at Eric's ashes and I said,
Wow.
Eric, you haven't died in vain. Things will change so other people are safe when they go visit DC or work in DC. And that's my goal, to make people safe.
Griff Jenkins has more for us in Washington. Hi, Griff.
Hey, Dana, good morning. And while the stats show this 30-year low in violent crime here in D.C., the reality on the streets tells a very different story. And for many victims of crime, this is personal. Asia Tamimi lost her husband 4 years ago, and her sons have been victims of gun violence.
My husband first. It was the 1st of January of 2021. He was trying to help an elderly man, and he was stabbed to death. My son, somebody came up behind him and shot him 8 times, twice in the head.
Oh my
6
God.
times in the body, and he's a paraplegic now.
Oh my
So,
God.
Believe me, gun violence is personal for me.
When you hear
Wow.
from city leaders and others that crime is actually down, are you seeing that?
No, I'm not seeing it. We're seeing carjackings, the violence in the communities. So we were advocating then for the National Guard to come out, but they said there was no need. But think about how many lives could have been saved just having them on the scene.
And Asia says, still to this day, she's not heard from one detective about those crimes committed against her family. Now, for Tempe
Wow.
Satcher, another D.C. resident, her son BJ was gunned down in a random drive-by shooting on the way to work 2 years ago, and she does not
And-
feel that crime has calmed down.
Wow.
Just today, a young lady was shot over on 15th Street in Northeast DC. Does that seem like crime gone down? With all the things that are going on with our president, sending the National Guards out, I don't have a problem with that personally, because if MPD can't do it and they need help, then I'm glad they're able to get the help.
And Mayor Bowser says her police force has 3,100 officers. She wants to get it up to 3,800. DC's police chief says, in the meantime, she's welcoming federal assistance.
This is a great opportunity for us to build upon continuing to drive down crime with our federal law enforcement partners. What we're going to do is build upon that and working collaboratively with our U.S. Marshals, our DEA, and all of the other federal partners here to ensure that we're placing resources around our city.
Man, that's
in
a
those
big
areas
help
where
for
we've
the
seen
city,
impact
you
of
know?
this increase in crime.
That's a
One important
big
point, Dana,
help
that
for the
both
city.
Asia and Tempe stressed to me in the solution to solving youth crime, it begins in the home with parents and mentors. Dana?
Yeah.
Jenkins, thank you for bringing us their stories.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno.
Oh, that's
Catch
wild,
me and my
man.
co-hosts Harris
But
Faulkner and Kaylee
it's
McEnany
true.
on
It
Outnumbered
starts with
every
the
weekday at
family and
12
how you
p.m.
brought
Eastern,
up.
or set your DVR. Also,
If you brought up in a crazy home, you tend to get crazy mess. You tend to be in a mess. Let me see what this is about. Because I'm trying to go through these videos quick. Because I want to be out of here soon. So let's just try to go as fast as possible for a little bit. Let's check, see what this is about.
That's the hour now. Fox News getting an exclusive look into the federal investigation of a human trafficking ring in Los Angeles, California. Now, yesterday, agents raided an area of downtown LA that is infamous for sex work. Matt Finn along for the ride to see what he saw live in LA up early this morning today. Matt, good morning.
Hi, Bill. Here in Los Angeles, there is an area notorious for sex workers in and around Figueroa Street. Federal and local law enforcement tells us they decided to go after one especially bad gang that is enslaving women and children in what law enforcement says is the first ever case RICO charge here in Los Angeles for human trafficking.
This is the police. We have a warrant. Come out with your hands up.
Fox News exclusively on scene in a pre-dawn takedown of the Hoover Street gang that the federal government says runs a heinous sex trafficking operation, exploiting victims as young as 14 years old with the promise of a lavish lifestyle.
Has he been here? Is he in the residence? Has he been here the last couple of days?
In a partnered investigation, including the DOJ, Homeland Security, and LAPD, 11 suspects across LA were targeted in a RICO case. At a downtown motel used to allegedly sell women, federal agents surrounded one of their 11 suspects and took him into custody. Police say during the operation, they also rescued 4 victims, including a minor. Federal investigators say a female, Amaya Armstead, who goes by the street name Lady Duck, was a lead target and prolific human trafficker. Her moniker even tattooed on at least 4 victims' bodies. The criminal complaint describing one instance when Armstead posted a video of herself beating a woman in a convenience store, holding her down by the hair and repeatedly kicking and kneeing her. The woman shouts that she's pregnant, but defendant Armstead continues to beat her.
What?
Now, this morning, 10 out of 11 suspects are in custody, but one is still on the run. 31-year-old Brian Israel is considered a fugitive at this hour. Now, during our embed, we actually watched live as the U.S. government was tracking this guy, but then he went dark and is at large. These suspects are charged with various federal offenses, including human trafficking and gun charges. They face decades behind bars if convicted. Bill, Dana.
Wow. Very important reporting.
Wow.
Matt Finn, thank you. Los Angeles today.
I'm Steve Doocy. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling.
I mean, how much is the reward if we find that mofo? We could go halves. Yo, let's go halves. We could go halves real quick. Let's check this quick little weather tab. It's a short part, so it's not long. Give me 1 sec. Set it up. Okay.
Of scattered storms. Well, looking down here in the southern Gulf, this is the Bay of Campeche. That is an area of disturbed weather that is beginning to intensify just a bit, getting a bit more organized. Now, this is going to move inland Friday right along either the Mexican or the southern Texas Gulf Coast. It doesn't have a lot of time to ramp up, but it could become a tropical depression technically before making landfall. There's tropical storm air in a much more well-defined system than it was this time yesterday. 60-mile-per-hour sustained winds. Here's the forecast track overlaid atop of.
I think it's going to take the southern
temperatures, and the brighter the colors get, the warmer the water. And as it gets over this warm water north of Puerto Rico on Sunday, becomes a Category 3 hurricane, and then it's up here hitting a patch of very warm water. Look at the wind there Tuesday, upwards of 120 to 125 miles per hour. There's a good look at our model data and how that's working. This thing likely misses the east coast of the U.S., but it will cause some rip currents and some rough surf up and down the eastern seaboard.
That'd be nuts.
No threat from that thing to the Gulf whatsoever. We've got some drier, hotter days ahead of us, highs in the mid-90s at the hottest Monday, Tuesday of next week.
But that's not my area, so we're going to go to this one here.
Welcome back. The Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, declassifying damning. Welcome back. The Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, declassifying damning emails yesterday showing how former DNI James Clapper directed officials to rush through normal procedures to release a highly politicized intelligence report about the 2016 election. His team even raised concerns about there not being enough time to be, quote, absolutely confident that Russia plotted to change the outcome of the election. But Clapper went further. He even invoked the adage, well, that's our story and we're sticking to it. Gabbard writing this, the decision to compromise standards and violate protocols in the creation of the 2017 Manufactured Intelligence Assessment was deliberate and came from the very top. Joining me right now is Kentucky Congressman and House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer. Mr. Chairman, great to have you. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Good morning, Maria.
And of course, there was a behind closed doors testimony of Columbia University law professor Daniel Richman, who apparently was Jim Comey's media mole. And he was communicating with Michael Schmidt at the New York Times, according to John Solomon at Just the News. And he was trying to get Michael Schmidt at the New York Times to write favorable stories about Jim Comey and negative stories about President Trump. What can you tell us?
Well, look, this is what we thought was going on all along. This is the deep state coordinating and colluding with the liberal media to create false narratives that would hurt President Trump and other Republicans. This has been going on for a long time. And thanks to Tulsi Gabbard and John Ratcliffe and Kash Patel, we're finally seeing the evidence to prove that. And hopefully we're turning a corner with respect to our intelligence community. And these new faces led by President Trump can restore credibility to our intelligence community.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, are we ever going to see accountability, Congressman? I mean, we've been talking about the Russia collusion lie for years. Here it is, John Ratcliffe with me back in 2019, basically putting his finger on the story, knowing that John Brennan and James Clapper were behind pushing this ridiculous nonsense. Watch this, 2019, watch this.
The Democrats have made the mistake of staking the credibility of all this on Adam Schiff. The person that they put in charge of this investigation turns out is the one that helped start it by meeting with a person who walked out of Adam Schiff's office and became the whistleblower. And at the very same time that that's happening, as you mentioned, now there's an Inspector General report that comes out that says during the last impeachment hoax, the Trump-Russia one, Adam Schiff repeatedly made false statements to the American people about the FBI's actions.
You know, Adam Schiff was certainly out and about a lot throughout the last 3 years saying that there is collusion in plain sight. And now we get the IG report and we actually see the misconduct and what they call errors, fraud, whatever you want to call it. What is your reaction to what you learned from Michael Horowitz?
It wasn't just that Adam Schiff was out and about. He put out a report that said there was no FISA abuse by the FBI. That was false. He said that the FBI didn't fail to turn over exculpatory information. That was false. He said that the Steele dossier was not a central part of the FISA applications against Carter Page. That was false.
So Adam Schiff was your colleague in the House. I mean, he was the chairman of the Intelligence Committee at one point. Now he's a senator. There's been no accountability. Why should we expect any accountability anywhere?
Well, this is the opportunity that conservatives have been waiting for a long time. Now we have people like John Radcliffe, who, along with Devin Nunes, have been saying this was what was taking place for a long time. Now, with access to the National Archives, we have the evidence in the form of emails to prove this is what's happening. It's up to Pam Bondi now to take this evidence and hold people accountable. And if for whatever reason, people like Adam Schiff and Clapper and Comey and Christopher Wray, if they get by with what they've done and are never held accountable, I think there's going to be a lot of disappointment among conservatives, because we've sat back and we've watched this happen over the last 5 to 8 years, and nothing's happened. Now the evidence is clear. It's time to hold people accountable. It's my understanding, Maria, that there are grand jury deliberations taking place. It's my understanding that the Department of Justice is serious about taking this evidence that's emerged and holding these people accountable. And I certainly hope that's what happens.
Well, what do you know about the statute of limitations? Because John Radcliffe, the CIA director now, joined me just last week and told me that when you're talking about conspiracy, it does not, a 5-year statute of limitation does not apply. And, you know, it begins, the timing begins on the last time you, quote unquote, conspired. And if they're still lying about it today, I mean, we had another bombshell disclosure by FBI Director Kash Patel just this week, new whistleblower testimony, accusing Congressman Adam Schiff, then Congressman, now Senator, of approving a 2017 plan to leak classified information in an effort to damage President Trump's first term. Is that not a felony? The documents are from a former Democrat staffer on the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Schiff's office calls the allegations categorically false, Congressman. And President Trump is now calling on Attorney General Pam Bondi to investigate Adam Schiff and Hillary Clinton. Watch this.
I actually told them, I said, you know, they got this phony investigation going on, Russia, totally phony, created by Adam Schiff, Shifty Schiff, and Hillary Clinton and the whole group of them. And it made it very dangerous for our country because I was unable to really deal with Russia the way we should have been. I'm looking at Pam because I hope something's going to be done about it.
It's a good point that he makes. He was not even able to deal with Russia the way he needed to deal with Russia because he was always on defense. I didn't collude. He had to make sure he watched his P's and Q's when talking about Vladimir Putin.
That's exactly right. And now that the truth has come to light, I'm glad President Trump pointed at Pam Bondi and said, I hope you do something about it, because the power lies within the Department of Justice now to hold these people accountable. And if they're allowed to get away with this, I'm going to be disappointed. My colleagues on the House Oversight Committee are going to be disappointed. And everybody in America that's watched Fox News and other conservative networks over the past 4 years are going to be disappointed. So I'm optimistic. When you talk about Adam Schiff, not only is this coming to light that he leaked classified data, that he colluded with the media to try to create a false narrative to hurt our president of the United States, to hurt our foreign policy, to influence the elections. But he's also involved in a mortgage scam. So I think that the walls are closing in on Adam Schiff, and I think the Department of Justice has ample evidence now to move forward and hold Adam Schiff accountable for the many crimes that he's committed.
Yeah, by the way, I would argue this is not just about conservatives. I mean, you said, you know, conservatives are going to be disappointed. I mean, this story, this whole thing ripped the country apart. It put an duly elected president on defense. having to explain away whether or not he colluded or not. It hampered his ability to get people to work for him in his administration, hampered his ability to actually deal with Russia in the way that he needed to deal with Russia, because he was always afraid of what he was going to say, that it could be tied to collusion. So, I would say the whole country, if you're a truth-telling, honest citizen and all you really want is truth and you want to just get to the bottom of truth, then everybody should be disappointed, not just conservatives. But Mr. Chairman, I got to ask you about what you're working on right now, because I know you've got more interviews coming up next week as your committee is investigating former President Biden's mental decline and the use of the auto pen. Biden's former special assistant, Ian Sams, is coming up next Thursday. You've got Andrew Bates, Karine Jean-Pierre, and Jeff Zients on deck for September. What do you want to hear from these folks? I mean, Fox News is reporting that you've got new emails from the Biden White House showing how they scrapped a 2023 visit to a Pennsylvania shipyard because of, quote, how many steps were involved to get on the ship, Mr. Chairman. You're leading this landmark investigation. What should we expect?
Well, we've got a lot of questions about the potential cover-up of Joe Biden's mental and physical decline. The new emails that have emerged show that they didn't want Joe Biden to go take one walk around a ship that obviously is used for our national security, because they didn't feel that he could actually make enough steps without tripping or falling down. That's more evidence that the staff around Joe Biden sheltered him and tried to hide the fact that he was in a massive mental and physical decline. You take that with what we're learning from all these depositions and transcribed interviews that we've already done, and there were a very small group of people that were around Joe Biden that shielded him from cabinet secretaries. They shielded him from the press. They shielded him from the American people. And yet these are the same few staffers that operated the auto pen that was used heavily in the last 90 days during the lame duck period of Joe Biden's presidency to try to Trump-proof the Trump administration. And many of the problems and challenges that Donald Trump is facing now in court, trying to do what he said he was going to do by eliminating unneeded federal bureaucracies and by bringing federal employees back to work. The executive orders that were signed by the auto pen during the lame duck presidency are what's being used to hurt him in court. So the whole basis of this investigation is to determine whether or not these executive orders and pardons can be declared null and void in a court of law, because we had a president of the United States that had no idea what that auto pen was being used for. And I think the evidence continues to emerge to show that this small group, this inner circle in Joe Biden's White House, did everything in their ability to conceal the fact that he was in mental and physical decline.
Well, I mean, Anthony Fauci was pardoned. Why? Why was Anthony Fauci pardoned? If you don't think that Anthony Fauci did anything wrong, why are you pardoning him? He made all these decisions that destroyed people's lives during COVID. Is that pardon legitimate? Because that was done by the auto pen, not by Joe Biden, right?
Yeah, and look, Joe Biden gave that one interview since his presidency to the New York Times where they pressed him on the pardons, and he said, "Yeah, I didn't see every pardon. I delegated that to staff." Well, that already was that's not how the pardon process works. Right. And that already shows that the whole pardon process was toxic. And I think that you can make a strong case in court that these pardons and the executive orders could be declared null and void because the president had no idea what was going on. And he even admitted that to the New York Times.
It's a big statement. Big statement right there. Mr. Chairman, great to see you, sir. Thank you. James Comer joining us.
That's pretty cool. Now, the next ones that I'm going to show is the last two for the night because I'm getting off of here. So it was a good night. It was fun. It was funny. Let's see, which way should we go? Just change the game. Let's see, Trump warns Chicago. I'm sending the troops. All right. Both of them are Tyson de la Cruz. Let's just go right for it. Let's set this up. It's a back-to-back Tyson. What a great way to end the night. It's a great way to end the night. Let's do it. It's Tyson de la Cruz. I know, right, phone?
One lawmaker called it political theater. Another says deploying the National Guard is against the law. And Mayor Johnson says no one in Chicago is asking for the help. The response follows President Trump calling both the mayor and the governor incompetent.
America, Chicago is facing the perfect storm of complete governmental failure, and President Trump just put Mayor Brandon Johnson and Governor J.B. Pritzker on notice. The city is staring down a $1.6 billion budget deficit while crime continues to ravage neighborhoods, and now Trump is threatening to send the National Guard to restore order. But here's what's really wild. Johnson called Trump one of the biggest threats to humanity, while his own city burns through taxpayer money and can't protect its citizens. Meanwhile, Pritzker is threatening to fight federal intervention in court while proceeding over the largest municipal financial crisis in decades.
He is one of the biggest threats to humanity that we've seen in an entire generation. And as mayor of the city of Chicago, and as someone who understands the premise of our Constitution, we are justified in our resistance to his authoritarianism.
What is up, guys? Tyson Dela Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. This is what happens when you elect leaders who care more about the virtue signaling than actually governing. Chicago is collapsing, and the people in charge are more worried about fighting Trump than actually fixing their city. Let me break down just how catastrophically these Democrats have mismanaged Chicago's finances. The city is facing a $1.6 billion deficit, and it gets worse every single year. Here's the progression: $116 million deficit in 2024, $942 million in 2025, and now projections show a $1.6 billion budget deficit in 2026. That's not bad budgeting. That's complete financial incompetence. That's heading straight towards one of the biggest municipal bankruptcies in American history.
But I want to make something perfectly clear. These individuals are not being sent to cities to police cities because they're not trained to police. These are soldiers. They don't go through the training that our police officers go through.
And where did all the money go? While Johnson complains about Trump cutting $830 million in community violence prevention funding, let me tell you where Chicago's money actually went. Billions and billions of dollars on illegal migrants, green energy scams, and bloated government structures, with 50 aldermen making $130,000 each year. Chicago had $2.3 billion in American Rescue Act funds, $3.3 billion from the bipartisan infrastructure law. And what did they spend it on? Everything except for public safety. They spent money on high efficiency electronic appliance rebates while people were getting murdered in the streets. Now Mayor Mohawk Brandon Johnson keeps claiming that crime is down in Chicago. Let me tell you the real story behind these numbers. Yes, some categories of violent crime have decreased from the historic peaks of 2020 and 2021, but Chicago still has a violent crime rate well above the national average.
Look, crime is down in Chicago. Crime is down. There is more work for us to do. But, he wasn't adamant about ensuring that the $830 million of funding that he took away from community violence prevention and intervention.
And here's what Johnson doesn't want you to know. Crook County, which includes Chicago, recorded the highest number of homicides in the nation in 2024. The city is still experiencing more homicides than New York and Los Angeles combined in many periods. And here's the kicker: 67% of arrests in Chicago result in, guess what? No prosecution. Think about that. Police are doing their job, they can arrest, but prosecutors refuse to put criminals in prison. It's a revolving door where criminals know they'll be back on the streets within hours. The Chicago Police Department is short over 2,000 officers, the largest police shortage in 50 years. While they're cutting the recruitment division budget by $1.9 million, they're complaining that they don't have enough cops while literally cutting the budget to hire more cops. Let me tell you the kind of leadership Chicago is getting from Mayor Brandon Johnson. This guy called Donald Trump one of the biggest threats to humanity, while his own city is falling apart.
And again, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt doubling down on the president's agenda and then criticizing the Democrats' response to his plans. Listen to this.
I think it's despicable that Democrats cannot agree that we need more law and order in a city that has been ravaged by violence, crime, murders, property theft. This should be a winning issue for all Americans. I don't understand. It's just anything President Trump does, the Democrats want to disagree with. I think the president would love to work with Democrats on this issue to bring law and order to America's cities, but unfortunately they have failed. And that's why he's taken this historic action to federalize the National Guard.
Johnson claims that sending the National Guard would be destabilizing for the city. Destabilizing? The city already has 1,000 carjackings per year, the highest homicide rate in the nation, and residents are fleeing in droves. How much more destabilized can you get? Listen to this arrogance. No one in the city of Chicago, residents that I've spoken to, the people in this city, no one has ever asked for the National Guard. Really, bro? Maybe that's because the people you're asking for help have already left the city and are too afraid to speak up.
Mayor Brandon Johnson says there is no need for the National Guard. Similar to D.C., violent crime is down in Chicago.
It would destabilize our city, quite frankly. No one in the city of Chicago, residents that I've spoken to, the people of this city, no one has ever asked for the National Guard.
Johnson brags about the 30% reduction in homicides and the 40% reduction in shootings, but he's comparing the historic highs of 2020 and 2021 when Chicago was literally a war zone. That's like bragging about only having 500 murders instead of 700. It's still a disaster. Then we have Governor J.B. Pritzker, who Trump accurately described as incompetent.
And while the president criticized Johnson, he gave Governor Pritzker a good dose of it as well.
Pritzker's an incompetent. His family threw him out of the business, and he ran for governor. And now I understand he wants to be president. But I noticed he lost a little weight, so maybe he has a chance.
Pritzker's response? He's threatening to fight federal intervention in court, claiming it violates federal law. This is the same governor who's presiding over a state where the largest city is heading towards bankruptcy and has crime rates that rival war zones.
He says if the president sends the National Guard to Chicago, it will immediately be fought in court because Pritzker says it violates federal law.
It's not surprising to me that he suggests violating the law. He's done it many times and been convicted of it 34 times.
Pritzker says it's not a surprise to me that he suggests violating the law. He's done it many times and has been convicted of it 34 times. This guy is more concerned about attacking Trump than fixing the disaster in his own state. Here's what Trump said about Chicago. If we need to, we're going to do the same thing in Chicago, which is an absolute disaster. We have a mayor who's totally incompetent. He's an incompetent man.
If we need to, we're going to do the same thing in Chicago, which is a disaster. We have a mayor there who's totally incompetent. He's an incompetent man.
And you know what? He's absolutely right. When local leadership completely fails to protect citizens, when they're more concerned about political theater than public safety, when they're driving their city towards bankruptcy while crime runs rampant, that's when federal intervention perhaps becomes necessary. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt put it perfectly. She said, "I think it's despicable that Democrats cannot agree that we need more law and order in a city that has been ravaged by violence, crimes, murders, property theft. This should be a win issue for all Americans." She's right. This should be a bipartisan issue. When American cities are being ravaged by violence, crime, murders, property theft, every elected official should want to fix it. But Democrats would rather fight Trump than protect their own constituents. America, this is what complete governmental failure looks like. Chicago is facing a $1.6 billion deficit, has the highest homicide rate in the nation, is short 2,000 police officers, and has a 67% non-prosecution rate for arrests. Meanwhile, Mayor Brandon Johnson calls Trump one of the biggest threats to humanity, while his city burns and Governor Pritzker threatens to fight federal intervention in court instead of fixing the disaster in his own state. The residents of Chicago, unfortunately, you get what you voted for, but you deserve better than leaders who care more about virtue signaling than public safety. They deserve better than politicians who spent billions on illegal immigrants and green energy scams while neighborhoods become absolute war zones. Trump is right to threaten federal intervention. When local leadership completely abandons their responsibility to protect citizens, when they're more concerned about fighting the president than fighting crime, when they're driving their city towards bankruptcy, that's when the federal government needs to step in. Unfortunately, most of Chicago voted for this disaster, but they deserve better leaders who prioritize their safety over political theater. Elections have consequences, and Chicago is living with the consequences of elected leaders who hate America more than they love their own city. Let me know what you guys think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.
Governor Larry Roden announced a public safety initiative to protect South Dakotans.
He is ordering multiple state agencies to work with city and county law enforcement to crack down on crime in Sioux Falls.
America, while other states are crying about Trump's immigration enforcement, South Dakota just launched something called Operation Prairie Thunder, the most comprehensive state-level support for ICE operations ever seen. They're sending 15 state troopers monthly, activating National Guard helicopters, and assigning soldiers to help ICE with deportation paperwork. But here's the kicker. They've already flagged 10 undocumented immigrants for deportation, and ICE has made 262 arrests with only 7 federal officers. This is what happens when a state actually wants to enforce immigration law.
Governor Larry Roden announced what he calls a targeted anti-crime initiative to go after illegal drugs, investigate gang activity, hold parole absconders accountable, and stop dangerous street racing.
What is up, guys? Tyson Dela Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. South Dakota is showing every other state how to actually support federal immigration enforcement instead of obstructing it like these blue sanctuary cities. Let me break down what Operation Prairie Thunder actually involved. This isn't just symbolic support. This is real coordinated law enforcement action. Governor Larry Roden is sending 10 to 15 extra state troopers to Sioux Falls twice per month for saturated patrols targeting drugs, gang activity, parole violators, and dangerous street racing.
The primary effort will be saturation patrols starting next month. Twice a month, the state will send 10 to 15 extra troopers to Sioux Falls.
But here's where it gets really impressive. They're taking to the skies. Roden authorized the use of state airplanes and National Guard Lakota helicopters for drug interdiction and traffic enforcement. When was the last time you saw a state commit this level of resources to support federal law enforcement?
Never.
Take to the skies with Lakota helicopters and a highway patrol airplane aiding in drug interdiction and traffic enforcement.
And in what News Nation calls a rare move, 6 National Guard soldiers have been activated to assist ICE directly with processing and administrative work tied to deportations. Think about this. South Dakota is using their National Guard to help ICE deport people faster.
Also in a rare move, 6 National Guard soldiers have been activated to assist ICE directly with processing and administrative work tied directly to deportation.
And here's what makes South Dakota's approach so smart. They just signed a 287G agreement with ICE, which gives local law enforcement immigration enforcement powers. Governor Roden explained it perfectly. ICE asked for help in this area, and South Dakota is stepping up and stepping in to meet this need.
ICE has asked for help in this area, and South Dakota is stepping up and stepping in to meet this need. Our soldiers will use their expertise to learn these processes and help keep those 2 officers running efficiently so deportations can happen quicker.
The goal is brilliant, in my opinion. By handling the paperwork and administrative tasks, ICE can spend more time on the streets making arrests instead of being stuck behind the desk. South Dakota isn't alone on this. According to News Nation, we're seeing a growing trend in 287G agreements in Republican states like Texas, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Arkansas, and Louisiana. These interior states are stepping up beyond just the southern border. And here's what's amazing. This operation is already producing results even before it fully launches. South Dakota has flagged at least 10 undocumented inmates for possible transfer to ICE, mostly nonviolent offenders near the end of their sentences.
So far, the state has flagged at least 10 undocumented inmates for possible parole to ICE.
And get this, ICE has made 262 arrests in South Dakota with only 7 federal officers. Think about the efficiency here. With South Dakota's support, imagine how many more arrests they'll be able to make.
The ICE, meanwhile, has made at least 262 arrests in South Dakota with only 7 federal officers.
The Sioux Falls area has already seen an increase in immigration-related arrests. Federal court cases show Homeland Security agents arresting people after running license plates and fingerprints, discovering they were in the country illegally with previous deportation convictions.
Here are details from 3 recent federal court cases. In the first, a special agent with Homeland Security investigations arrested a Honduran man in Sioux Falls after running his license plate and discovering he was in the country illegally. A special agent in Rapid City arrested a man originally from Mexico after running his fingerprints and confirming he too was in the country illegally. Both men had been convicted of illegal re-entry after deportation. In a third case, an ICE agent arrested a man originally from Guatemala in Sioux Falls. In addition to an illegal re-entry after deportation conviction, he also has a criminal record in South Dakota, including multiple DUI convictions.
What South Dakota is doing represents a fundamental shift on how states can support federal immigration enforcement. Governor Roden made it clear this is a pilot project that could be replicated.
My vision is this type of coordinated effort will be a model that can be replicated in other communities to help keep all of South Dakota safe.
If this proves successful, which I think it will, Rapid City and other cities could use this similar program. This isn't just about Sioux Falls. This is about creating a statewide model for immigration enforcement cooperation.
If the plan proves successful, Rapid City and other cities could see similar programs in the future.
The operation has multiple components beyond immigration. It's targeting illegal drugs, gang activity, parole, and dangerous street racing. This is comprehensive public safety, not just immigration enforcement.
The second is what the governor calls a targeted anti-crime initiative to go after illegal drugs, investigate gang activity, hold parole absconders accountable, and stop dangerous street racing.
Of course, the usual suspects are complaining. An immigration attorney says ICE is now picking up anyone with a criminal background instead of just prioritizing serious crimes. But that's exactly what we voted for. Enforcement of all immigration laws, not selective enforcement based on liberal priorities.
Evidence is showing us anyone with a criminal background, whether it's a conviction, whether they've done their time, if you will, whether they even haven't had a day in court yet, if that's on their record. We're seeing ICE kind of picking up anyone with a criminal history.
These activists are trying to scare immigrant communities. But here's the reality. If you're here legally, you have nothing to worry about. If you're here illegally, you should be concerned because the law is finally being enforced. The immigrant advocacy groups are providing know your rights information, which is fine, but they're also encouraging people to resist law enforcement. That's where they cross the line from legal advocacy to obstruction of justice. The mayor of Sioux Falls supports this operation, noting that while the city is at a 5-year low for violent and property crimes per capita, they're adding more people and need proactive measures.
We're actually proud that right now we are at a 5-year low for violent crimes and property crimes per capita, but we are adding more people. So that does mean we do have more violent crime.
America, South Dakota is showing the rest of the country what real cooperation with federal immigration enforcement looks like. While blue states are creating sanctuary policies and obstructing ICE, South Dakota is providing helicopters, soldiers, and state troopers to help get the job done. Operation Prairie Thunder isn't just about immigration, it's about comprehensive public safety. They're going after drugs, gangs, parole violators, and dangerous drivers while helping ICE remove people who shouldn't be here. The results speak for themselves. 262 ICE arrests with only 7 federal officers, 10 inmates already flagged for deportation, and a comprehensive support system that frees up ICE agents to focus on enforcement instead of paperwork. This is what happens when you have leadership that actually wants to enforce the law. Governor Roden and South Dakota are proving that states can be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. If this pilot program succeeds, we could see similar operations across red states nationwide. That's how you create real change. One state at a time, one arrest at a time, one deportation at a time. Let me know what you guys think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.
And I am done for the night. It was a good night. Tyson, thank you for the back-to-back awesome recording. You know, he's a good friend of the show, so I'm gonna bring him in one day. And but I'm tired. I'm gonna get off of here. My shoulders hurt, and I'm like dragging. I'm not making that 2-hour mark. Hell no. But I want to wish you guys a good morning, a good afternoon, and a good night wherever you're at. And I'll catch you on the flip side. And I'll be back on tomorrow for another beautiful day. But tomorrow's going to be a little special. We're going to have a little Putin and Trump news. The meeting. Would I be broadcasting that live? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe we could do it live. Let's see how I feel in the morning. But should feel good to get it up on here. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't even know what time of the meeting is. Anyways. Have a good night. Be peaceful. Stay in peace. Peace for now.